Now what we have is, we have action security. When we say action, it means some activity, right? So whatever activity we have to understand that, what we need to do, how we need to do. And action security, as I stated, it is governed by a policy which is called as a business process security policy. And to understand this business process security policy, first of all, we'll have to understand what is a business process. Okay. This also is our 7th chapter, but I'm not starting the 7th chapter, but I'm going to give you a little bit of overview just to make sure that you understand that I'm making some changes in the action security. But what is, first of all, action security, right? So any kind of business process. And if you remember, I stated that business process is what? It's a kind of workflow, right? Where there are certain steps which you need, which you want to put it in such a way that it comes up and we are able to use it the way it is going to work, right? So that's how a business process functions. So business process is basically a series of steps. Now, if I have to look into the business process, okay, I'm just using Logan McNeil for the moment, but I'll go back. I'll stop the proxy because I have been assigned a user. Let's see how exactly that reacts. So if I have to look into the business process, so there is a report for that. It is business process definition. See, this is my report, business process definitions. Now, when I look into the report, it will give me all the business processes, which is there till date, which is 3rd of August, right? Now, when I look into it, it should give me more than 500. Yep, it is 533. And these business processes are those business processes which is given by Workday. It is not something that we have created or we have developed. No, this is all developed by Workday, which means these business processes are basically those business processes which is by default in every tenant. Now, if I have to customize the business process, which means I'll have to figure it out how the things work, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that as per your module, you see, financials, right? So if I just try to look into staffing, I'm just giving you an example, staffing. See, HR code, staffing, filled, unfilled positions, organizations, right? All these are what? Tell me, all these are what? These are all business processes. Yeah. These are all actually modules, or, you can say, as per the function area, they have defined the module. So if you just look into HR code staffing and put a filter, you will get a lot of business processes here. You see, move worker, right? With the help of this, we are able to move it. Now, this is the default definition. What does that mean? This has been given by Workday. And you see, there are so many custom business processes which has been created for different supervisory organizations. Move worker supervisory for 300 global modern services. Move worker supervisory for Ion Corp Limited, right? Move worker for KC Executive Group. All these are different business processes, right? So if you just try to look into it, there will be 100 of such business processes in the system which has been built to customize it. Now, what does that mean? That if I have a default process in Workday, I can customize it as per my requirement. Because, if we take an example of hiring, if you are trying to hire somebody, right? Now, every company has their own hiring process. They may not follow others, or it is even same, but still they would say that I don't want to use the default one, I want to customize. And then Workday gives you that facility that we are going to study in next chapter, that how exactly does that work, and we will be able to figure it out. So what does it say? All kinds of business process which has some workflow or any action associated with that activity. So we will see some business processes. Okay, so let's say I'll just remove this filter first of all, and I'll take you to that business process basically which we are going to actually build. There will be certain business processes which we will be building. So for example, we will hire somebody, right? So let's see the hire business process. It is the most important business process in core HCM. Now you see how many hiring process has been created: 1,887, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, right? So there is so much of customization here. But we will try to see the default definition. Now, there is also a possibility that they would have changed the default definition because it's a practice tenant. But let's see how exactly it is. So every business process will have the first step as initiation, guys. Okay. 2 errors and 3 alerts. I'm sure someone has made certain changes. This is the thing. A, that is your initiation. And then what is that? Approval. Then you have action, action, action. We will study all these things. That what does that mean? What is approval? What is action? How exactly it works? How you can call any other business process, right? How can you create a service request, right? So we will study all this. That is going to come in 7th chapter. But right now, I'm just showing you how a business process looks like. Now you will see that there are steps. Step A, then there is AA. Now what does that mean? After A, there will be another A because it follows the alphabetical order. Okay. So I have got AA, B, BB, which means there are 2 parallel steps which is going on. Proposed location hierarchy is in UK. Proposed hierarchy is not in UK, right? So based on that, you will have your compensation, right? So this is how exactly it works. Now we don't know, I particularly don't know what type of permissions I have, how much I can configure. And what you see here is when you actually go ahead and you will have the security groups here, right? Do you see that? Which means these security groups will have your permission to perform this activity. So if it is an approval, when you are hiring somebody and you need an approval, so whose approval you are actually waiting for? Manager, right? Yes. That's the reason the security group has been put as manager. And you're proposing a compensation. Basically, you're trying to send an offer letter, right? So who does that? Compensation partner, right? Then edit Workday account. Who is going to do it? It is security partner, but you can actually put security administrator also. Yeah. Okay. So this is a custom profile made, someone has created a custom security group. So all these options that you see, it is all part of your steps. So we will design that, but that we will do in next chapter. However, today we are only talking about the security. So whenever I have to define the security, I'll have to get into the business process first of all, because to define the security, you need to know which business process actually I have to make the changes. Because business process is that entity which gives you the steps to perform any activity. So for example, if I have to apply for leaves, I need to have access to that business process, and my security group should be allowed to use that. Otherwise, I'll not be able to mark my leaves, right? So as I stated, everything that we do in Workday, whether we create positions, where we go ahead and create a supervisory organization or whatever, everything is governed by business process. Okay. And to give the permissions on any business process, you need to make the changes in the business process security policy, because the security policy which governs the business process is called as business process security policy. So how do we do that? So first of all, we'll have to get into the business process. Like we are in this business process, which is hire. So similarly, you saw there are multiple business processes, more than 500. That is by default. And then if you look into the custom business process, what has been created. So every business process will look like this only. There will be certain steps. The steps will change. It will not remain the same steps, but the concept of business process will always remain the same, which means the first step, what you see in every business process is initiation. That cannot be changed. So the first step will always be initiate. Whether it is custom standard, this is the default step that will always be at the top, which is A. If it does not require approval, it does not mean to be have AA. I mean, I can put B also here. There is no problem. Okay. So when we will configure this, we will see. Right now, I'm just showing you a business process. So any business process, you pick it up, whether it is to hire, to terminate, to promote, or approve leaves, whatever, any business process. You can also pick for payroll or reports, whatever you want to do. All these things are basically using the steps, and that step is a part of the workflow. And every step is responsible, every step execution is responsible, or the responsibility has been given to a particular security group. It's 7 o'clock. Which means these security groups has the permission. Then only they can be assigned here, guys. Okay. If they don't have the permission, then they will not be assigned. It is very important that if I have to assign a security group to perform some activity, those security groups should have that permission. Otherwise, I will not be able to find it when I am going to go ahead and assign this. Okay. So this is very important. Now, how do we actually go ahead and make the changes in the security? So we have to get inside a a business process, and then you see view business process definition, which is higher. And then we click on actions. Then you have this option which says business process policy. So it has been put as a short form, but it is actually business process security policy. When you edit it, you will see the complete name here at the top. So let it come. Now you see edit business process security policy, right? Do you see that? So every business process, let it be any business process in Workday, they will have these kind of questions. So it's asking you, who can start this business process? And what it is saying, please put the security groups here. Why? Because we cannot go ahead and assign the permissions directly to a user in Workday, right? So for that purpose only, we need to put the permission and give the permission to a security group. So let's say I want the HR executive that I created should have the permission, right? So I'll just use it. And again, you see, it converts itself into yellow. Why? What is the reason? So it gives you that alert. Activate your security policy through this particular task. If you don't activate it, then what will happen? It will not be effective. And then when you scroll down, guys, this is just one question, right? Who can start the business process? And this process is hire. So anything related with hiring, every step will be here only. See, hire employee through web service, which means I'm trying to hire somebody through integrations. I can do that. So if I have to do that, I need that security group to be here. Otherwise, that security group, whoever the member of that security group is, they will not be able to do. So you see HR admin, right? So if you just look into it, manager, right? All those default security profiles are there. I mean, security groups are there. I'm just showing it to you. You can keep on adding your security group everywhere. There is no problem in that. Now it says convert to worker. So let's say you want to convert any contingent worker, like, the contract employees to a permanent employee. You see, convert contingent worker to an employee. So we actually hire them also. It's not that, I'll just put a convert button and it will be done. No, you have to go through the hiring process. And that's the reason you have all these things related to hire. And again, if someone needs to have that permission, I will actually have to add them here. So similarly, there are multiple questions. So I'll just show you the questions. You can just go through it, right? So not everything is used. This Workday has given so many options. Now you see who can do action steps. Now action, I said, right, that we will study what is an action. So action basically means calling any other business process. Okay. So within the business process, you saw, right? I'll just show you again higher. Okay, let's see action steps. See, action, which means I am calling any other business process, like proposing the compensation higher. What does that mean? It will go and release an offer letter. Basically, you're preparing a compensation higher, and that have to be done by a compensation partner, right? If the compensation partner is able to perform that activity, now what does that mean? Who can do action steps? See, your comp partner security group should be here. Let's see. It's not showing here, but it should ideally be. Okay, review worker hire. That's the reason it is coming in this way. It is a review worker hire, right? So that is the reason you have the action steps. But if you have that step like propose compensation hire, right? Let's look into that. How we will go into the business process definition. And let's find propose compensation hire. Because every business process is there somewhere, right? Yeah. See, propose compensation higher. Now, when I put a filter and I'll click on it, so it will show me the complete steps of the proposing of the compensation, that what are the steps that is involved. And there may be one step itself. You see, initiation, nothing is there, right? Which means it has not been customized. It is exactly the same thing that Workday has given, and I can customize it by myself. I will do that when we can go there. Now, when you go into the edit, again, the business process definition, right? See, here you have compensation partner. That's the reason business process, which you're seeing here, propose compensation higher, you have compensation partner. That is the main reason why this security group has been assigned this task, which is of proposing the compensation higher. So we'll all have to keep in mind, and that's the reason we go ahead and provide those permissions to that security group. Okay, I'm only talking about security, right? Because this configuration will be done in the next chapter, which is our business process chapter. And we will study all this: initiation, approval, action, service, to do, integration, all these things will come in this. Okay, so don't worry about that. Now, what do we have here? We have our security policy. Now, we added a security group here. Whatever the security group we wanted, we added it. Okay. Now, once we go ahead and click on OK, this security group will be present here. There is no problem. It will be visible as well. But if you need that security group to perform that activity, then what you have to do? You will have to activate. So activating any security changes is very, very important. Without that, we actually cannot go ahead and create anything. Okay. Okay, let me close this first. And then only I can actually go ahead and activate the pending security policies. So guys, every activity that you do, any activity, don't consider that you're doing just hire, any activity. So you have let me just go into the task first. Okay, so this is my task. Any activity that you perform, whether it is hiring, termination, as you saw, proposed compensation hire, or approve leaves, you just need to go into that business process, and you should know the name of the business process. That is very important. Otherwise, you will not be able to perform the changes in the security. If you don't know it, you will have to ask the people, because they will have the documentation that to perform this activity, which is the business process that is being used, right? So that those documentations are really, really important that you need before you go into any project. Okay. And then you have this option, approved by PM. Click on OK. And this time you will see the business process security policy, not the particular part. Okay, let's look into that. You see business process security policy, right? And what does it say? Hire. This was done in the hire business process, and then I have clicked on OK. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not confirm it yet. I'll go ahead and click on OK. And now that security group that we wanted to give the permissions is now active. Okay. These are the minutest thing that you need to understand. Why I'm saying it, you need to understand, because these concepts will remain same irrespective of business process. Right now we saw hire. You pick up any business process, everywhere the same concept will be followed. If I have to make the changes, you will need to make sure you get into the business process, go into the security policies, and then only you can make those changes. And these changes are very sensitive in nature. If you are making it, you have to make sure that you have a proper approval. Don't do anything without the approval. That is something which you always have to keep in mind, guys. Okay. Now, when you try to look into this, you will have your security group present. You see, I have the security group now, right? Okay. So this completes our security, guys. We don't have anything more to discuss in security, which is related to action or data. Both the things we have understood. And my job is to make sure that you understand the concept which we have discussed. So guys, if you remember, I stated that security is very important aspect, right? And when you have security, we also have to take care of internal security and external security. External security of Workday is taken care by Workday itself. We don't have that option. We can't do anything if it has to be a firewall issue or something. So that is taken care by Workday. But what comes in our way is internal security of the applications. So there are two parts in that. What are that? Data and action. So data basically means the visibility, the modification, that what field you are able to access, what field you are not able to access, what field you are able to modify, what field you are not able to modify, right? So all those things matter a lot. Then you have the option where it says domain security policy, and this policy controls the permissions. So if I have to give the permissions, it will be on all these security groups. Okay. Then you have action security. Action security means whatever activity you are doing. If you're hiring somebody, if you're firing somebody, if you're approving leaves, if you're creating a position, you're creating supervisory organization, everything is governed through another business process, and through a different policy, which is business process security policy, and that is applied on all the business process. So whenever you have any action, it means there is a business process which is running in the backend. And that's what we saw, that there are 500 plus business processes, which is by default. And then you can customize and make any number of business processes which you can use. There's no restrictions on that. So these are the two main policies. How does that work? So in Workday, we remember that permissions are not given directly to a user. You will always give the permission to a security group. And if we are giving the permission directly to a security group, it means that it has to be either a security group where the role has been defined, or it could be a user-based security group where the permissions have been defined. Okay. There are multiple types of security group, but in this particular area, when I have to discuss, it is going to be a domain security policy, which has to be given to security group, where you give the permission of the fields, and the fields are as per the functional area. Okay. So functional area is something which we all have to remember. How will we go to that functional area? There is a report for that, which is functional area. If you go into that, you will have multiple reports, and based on that, you will be able to see the fields as well. And then if you want to give the permission, you have to put the security group in there. Now, if I have to create a role-based security group, the first step is I have to create a role. Okay. Because a role-based security group works on organization level. So first step is to create a role. Then next step is create a role-based security group. And the third step is assign the role to that security group. So this is complete. After that, then only you can assign the permissions through domain security policy. So first, if I have to create a role, what I have to do? I have to get into this permission, which says maintain assignable role. Then what we do, there are three main steps that we generally follow. You have to put the name of the security role that you're putting. And then for which type of organization you are enabling it for, whether it is supervisory, cost center, company, location, region, their hierarchies that you have to define. You need to enable it for that particular organization. And then who can assign these roles, whether it is a security administrator or a custom security group whom you want this to be assigned, then you have to put that. So once these steps are complete, there are few properties like, you want a self-assignation role, or you want to assign these roles through business process, you want to assign a role to a single person, or you want to put a flag like this role is only for a leader or a supporting staff, right? All those properties are there, which you will go through it, you will be able to understand. And once the role is created, my first task is done. Then I'll create a role-based security group and I'll assign that role to that security group. My security group, role-based security group is created. The next part is to assign the permissions. How do we do that? We go into the functional area. Then we identify which functional area we have to give the permissions. We go into those, we find out the fields. If I have to give the permission on all the fields, I'll choose the folder and assign the permissions. So there are two permissions which is there, which is view and modify. Now, depending upon my role, I can give the permission to modify also, and I can go give the permission to only view. Or if I don't want to show anything, I'll not give any permission. So that field will not be visible. You can give it on the folder. You can give the permissions to every field. There is no problem. And you can do it as per the requirement which you get. In Workday, the permissions are not given to a user. It is given to a security group, because all the other tools, they use the permission to assign it on a user, right? So that is the challenge that we have. Okay, then we have action security, or no, we have not gone that far. We have user-based security group also. So user-based security group is basically a security group which is governed by the security administrators of the tenant, and they have way too much power. The reason is they work on the tenant level. They are not restricted to one organization. They can look into anything if they have the permission. And based on the permissions that you're giving, they will be able to fulfill the work that they have to do. But again, it is again in your hands what permissions you are giving. But if you're giving the permission, it has to be like a security administrator. That is the only use of user-based security group. Otherwise, it is not required. You can just keep on using the role-based. No one is going to stop you. Okay. So these are the two security groups that is very important. There are multiple security groups that you will see, segment-based and a lot of things. But those are actually going to come in your other modules. If you know these two, you will not have any challenges understanding the other one. It is very easy. Then we go into the action security. So whenever you make any changes in the security, guys, it's very important that you have to activate it. It's very, the most mandatory step. That is the reason, you have to make sure that you don't forget it. Otherwise, if you forget it, the permissions will not be effective. Even if you assign that role to somebody, the person will not be able to do anything. Okay. So activating the security changes is very important. Okay. Then comes the action security. Action security basically means that there are certain workflows. Okay. Those workflows are Workday delivered workflows. And if you want to control the security of those workflows, there you have to provide the permissions to the security group. So in order to provide the permissions, you have to get into that activity first. You have to understand the workflow, and then you have to put that security group at a relevant place. So how to check that relevant place? You will have certain questions, right? Who can start the business process? Who can do action steps, right? So all those things are already there inside it. You just have to put the appropriate security group as per the requirement. And if you have put the appropriate security group, again, you have to activate the pending security policy. How? The same steps. So in order to run this action security, you already have all the actions created. And if you want to use the default one, that is no problem. But in case you want to customize it, that is what we will see in the next chapter, which is how we actually create a business process. And then we'll try to hire somebody. And that's the place where we go ahead and customize things as per our requirement. Okay. So this is the complete overview that you have. So here we will understand how the things are actually created. That's steps that you saw, right? A, B, C, D. All those things we are going to configure, and then accordingly we will use the security group, and we'll try to hire somebody, and we will see how the other business processes function. So the concept will remain same, irrespective of the module, whether it is core HCM, whether it is finance, whether it is student, whether it is payroll, recruitment, everywhere, the security policies will be the same. The configuration of business process will be the same. The steps you can change. The security group you can manipulate as per your requirement. There is no problem. But the steps and changes, if you have to perform it, it will be done in the same way. Okay, so that will be all from my side today.